Good evening. Welcome to the first public meeting for the redevelopment of Trinity Court. I am Faith Brody, the Director of Public Housing. This evening, some of our partners and other town employees will discuss the proposed project with you. But first, allow me to introduce Simone Robinson of P3 Public Participation Partners Consulting, who will discuss the rules of the webinar with you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first public meeting to discuss the redevelopment of Trinity Court Apartments. So before we get started with the presentation, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. This meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to the Trinity Court redevelopment website so that those who couldn't attend can still receive the same information as those of you who have joined us this evening. All participants will be muted so that we can avoid any distracting background noise. We will be taking your questions throughout the meeting. So if you'd like to submit a question or a comment at any time, please type it in the chat and we will answer them during the question and answer period later in the presentation. You can do this by clicking on the chat button at the bottom of your screen, type in your comments, and then hit submit. All of the questions and comments that you submit in the chat will be kept as a part of the process record. So if we run out of time today and cannot address your questions or comments tonight, we will post a document of questions and responses to the Trinity Court redevelopment website. Now with that, I would like to turn it back over to Faith to start our presentation.
Thanks, Simone. Next slide, please. So this evening, our proposed agenda is a little information about the context of the project, the development team overview, a review of the concept plan, and we'll save some time for questions and discussions. Thank you. So project context. When we talk about affordable housing, go back one, please.
All right.
When we talk about affordable housing, we use the term AMI, or area median income. This is where people's incomes are compared to the midpoint of a region's income distribution. In Chapel Hill, the area median income for a family of 4 is $86,400. 91% of renter households that are at or below 30% of the AMI are rent burdened, which means they pay more than 30% of their income on rent. The area median income for a 4-person household at 30% is $25,920. The town of Chapel Hill council members are firmly committed to increasing the number of affordable housing units in our community, and they've done that through a variety of ways. However, this cannot happen through public housing alone. Next slide. I'll go back, I'm sorry. Excluding Trinity Court, there are 296 public housing apartments in Chapel Hill. We have very little turnover. Therefore, we have approximately 222 families on the waiting list waiting for an apartment to become available. In 2018, we relocated the last family at Trinity Court to an existing public housing apartment. So instead of moving a family from the waiting list, we moved families from Trinity. Trinity had developed several structural deficiencies and a deterioration of the building, which threatened the safety of the families living there. The entire process took a little bit over a year. So for the years 2017 through March 2018, when a unit became available in the bedroom size that I needed to place a Trinity family, I moved the Trinity family and now not one from the waiting list. This allowed some to stay on the waiting list a little bit longer than they would have normally. After several structural, hazardous materials, and engineering assessments, we felt as though we were in position to solicit a development team to help us envision a new future for Trinity and possibly increase the number of apartments available at that site. After a competitive proposal process, we partnered with the community housing partners. You'll meet several of their key players later on in this discussion. I want to take a few more minutes about some of the things that council emphasized in this redevelopment process. 1-for-1 replacement. No less than 40 apartments are to be built. If possible, We want to maximize the number of affordable housing units on that same site. We want to adjust the bedroom mix to match demand while maintaining current total bed count. Currently, Trinity has 22 bedrooms and 23 bedrooms. The greatest number of families on the waiting list request 1 and 2 bedrooms. So our plan is, if possible, to increase the number of 1-bedroom apartments. We want to ensure that redevelopment is compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods and fits within the site restraints. And last, but by no means least, we want to minimize the need for town funding through other leveraging methods. I'd now like to turn it over to Samantha Brown, who will take us a little bit further into the development process.
Actually, I think that we're going to go ahead and do poll question number 1 now, Simone, if you want to do that.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. So we kind of want to get a better understanding of who's joining us tonight. So we would like for you to answer the following question by selecting the response on the screen that best fits you. And so you should now be able to see the poll questions. And we'll give you maybe about 30 seconds here to select the option that best fits you. All right, another 10 seconds. All right, let's see what the results are. So it looks like about 67% of you just have a general interest in the project, and the rest of you are interested in affordable housing for you and your family. All right, thank you for that. And I will now turn it back over to Samantha.
Great. Thank you, Simone. There we go. So now I'd like to introduce the Trinity Court development team to everyone. So my name is Samantha Brown. I'm the Vice President of Multifamily Real Estate Development for Community Housing Partners. I've been with CHP for 16 years, and I will be the main point of contact for this project. So you will be seeing me often. But what I'd like to do is go around the screen and let our development partners introduce themselves. And what I'm going to do is just call people out so they can just take a second to introduce who they are so you can know who the different players are on your screen. So Kim, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm Kim Strom. I'm Vice President of Corporate Development at Community Housing Partners.
Thanks, Kim. Angie?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Angie Roberts-Dobbins. I'm the Vice President of Resident Services for Community Housing Partners.
Great. Penny?
Good evening, Penny Dodson, Regional Manager at Community Housing Partners for North Carolina.
Thanks. And Crystal?
I'm Crystal Strickler, the Director of Compliance for Community Housing Partners.
Thanks, Crystal. Janetta?
Hello, everyone. I'm Janetta Perry, Senior Project Manager for Public Participation Partners, and I'm part of the engagement team.
And Deirdre?
And I'm Deirdre Scanlon, and I am the Communications and Engagement Manager for Public Participation Partners, so the communications team.
Thank you. Tom?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Tom Liebel. I'm a principal of Mosley Architects, and we will be serving as the leading the design team for the project.
Thanks, Tom. And last but not least, Joshua.
Zoom meeting.
Hello, yes, Joshua Galloway with New Ecology, and we're working on the sustainability side of the team. Thank you.
Thanks, Joshua. So I want to thank everyone for attending this meeting for Trinity Court and for your interest in the redevelopment of this really important property. My hope is that today you will get to know a little bit about Community Housing Partners and the team of experts that will be helping to facilitate the reimagining of Trinity Court. I know I speak for all of us when I say we are very excited to take this journey with you. So Community Housing Partners is a nonprofit, mission-based affordable housing organization. Community Housing Partners will be the primary organization redeveloping Trinity Court. CHP will be responsible for all of the other folks working on this project, whether it's the general contractor, the engineer, the architect, or the sustainability consultant. The buck stops with us. We are responsible to Chapel Hill for delivering a successful development, and we are responsible to you, the public, to make sure that you're informed and that your voice is heard. So what does Community Housing Partners bring to Chapel Hill and to the redevelopment of Trinity Court? The answer is that the redevelopment of Trinity Court is the essence of what we do as an organization, and we will be doing it for Trinity Court too. At Community Housing Partners, we don't just do development. Our mission is to create homes and communities that are healthy, sustainable, and affordable. In addition to our development services, Community Housing Partners has in-house property management and resident services. You met Penny and you met Angie. And Community Housing Partners will be the property manager at Trinity Court, and Community Housing Partners will also provide resident services at Trinity Court. Collectively, Community Housing Partners development staff have over 100 years of experience in affordable and tax credit housing. So we've done this a lot. We've developed over 6,800 affordable multifamily units over the last 35 years in 6 different states. And Community Housing Partners has considerable experience and expertise in projects just like Trinity Court. And I'm going to take you on a tour of a few of these projects in just a little bit. But first, I'm going to let Kim Strom tell you what we mean when we talk about healthy communities as part of CHP's mission.
Thanks, Samantha. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so you may have noticed when Samantha let you guys know what our mission was, she mentioned the word healthy in regards to the communities we serve. And so I kind of wanted to just explain a little bit about what we and our partners mean when we talk about health within this context. Research shows that an individual's health is impacted by so much more than what we would typically think of, more than your genetic makeup or your medical history. Health is really impacted by everything around you, where you live, what resources and opportunities you have available to you, and most certainly, the home in which you live. And so all of that, the social determinants of health, which you see on your screen here, is really just a fancy word for all of that and these items you see on your screen. And so at Community Housing Partners, we really try to do more than just put a roof over somebody's head. We really want to get to know the families that live in our communities and understand the needs of our families so that we can do better at improving the health of the residents that we serve. And in a little while, you'll hear from Angie. She's going to give us sort of a boots on the ground perspective of the services and programming that she and her teams offer on the ground at our communities to better the health of our residents. So thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Now I want to let Angie talk about Community Housing Partners resident services programs.
Thanks, Samantha. Good afternoon again, everybody. Community Housing Partners has been providing resident services to our rental communities for more than 20 years now. CHP invests nearly $2 million every year, and we feel like this is one of the things that sets us apart from other housing providers. We currently have service delivery at approximately 65% of our properties and are quickly moving toward the goal of reaching 100% of the properties by the end of 2022. All of our service deliveries are provided free of charge to our residents and are offered on a participation by choice basis. The service delivery is tailored to the specific population at a community, but all the services fall under 3 areas of focus, which are senior services, housing stability, and community engagement. Next slide, Samantha. So in 2019, Community Housing Partners Resident Services received a national certification called CORES. And this certification recognizes organizations with longevity and formality in provided service delivery to the clients. Through this certification process, we developed a tool that helps us to assess the community in determining the level of services that are needed by the population living there. We start out by conducting a neighborhood and community assessment. That gives us a snapshot of the community surrounding the property, as well as assessing the other helping organizations or agencies that are existing in that community. We facilitate resident surveys, which allows us to get direct input from residents regarding their needs. And then we combined all of these assessments to determine the level of need. Once we have all of those assessments completed, then we develop a property services plan, which specifies exactly what services are to be offered, and then an implementation plan, which talks about how we deliver those services. We reevaluate that every 3 years just to make sure that our service delivery is compatible with what the residents are asking for in the community.
Thanks, Angie. So running and maintaining our properties is central to our operations at Community Housing Partners. We take pride in being a good steward of our properties and being a thoughtful and responsive landlord and a neighbor that anyone would like to have next door. So I want to let Penny tell you a bit about our property management division.
Good evening. Community Housing Partners offers full-scale property management services to the communities that we serve. Our property management division's been in operation since early 1980s. In that time, our portfolio has grown to over 5,600 units. We manage many classifications and layers of affordable housing, from tax credit to naturally occurring affordable housing. Portfolio-wide, 86% of our households are considered to be in the extremely low and very low income categories. We currently manage 11 properties in North Carolina, from Waynesville to Wilson, serving elderly and family households at or below 30% and up to 115% of the area median income. We have amazing team members who are not only experts in their role, but are also passionate about delivering superior service to our residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Next up is Tom Liebel, and he's going to tell you a little bit about Mosley Architects. Oh, is Tom muted?
Over the last couple of decades, we've worked on over 89,000 units of multifamily and senior housing and over 200 affordable housing communities. What's really exciting about that is that we're actually able to recruit staff members who are excited about working with affordable housing communities and have a passion to support that. So we have just an amazing, great team we bring to the table here. With that, we're also very strong, resilient advocates for community participation, working towards sustainable and resilient communities. And our nearest office happens to be right in Raleigh. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. A really exciting member of our development team is New Ecology, which is represented by Joshua Galloway, who will be helping us evaluate how we can incorporate sustainability and resilience into the new development. Joshua.
Excellent. Thank you, Samantha. Again, Joshua Galloway with New Ecology, and we are a nonprofit that works to really focus on bringing the benefits to sustainable communities to underserved populations. We work primarily in affordable housing, and our goal is really to make the buildings, the home that you live in, efficient, healthy, and a comfortable place to live. And so we'll be asking the question of what can we do to make your life better? Thank you, Samantha.
Thanks, Joshua. So now it's time for the tour of some of our most recent and relevant projects at Community Housing Partners. This first property is called the Residences at North Hill, which is a partnership with the Fairfax County, Virginia Housing Authority. Our partnership with Fairfax began in 2015. This property is 33 acres of vacant land, or it was when we started, that the County Housing Authority had been holding for over 30 years with the intent of building affordable housing on it. We've worked hand in hand with the county to make this project a reality. The county also provided considerable funding for this project. The residents at North Hill involved a very intensive public process, engaging with local stakeholders and neighboring residents. We began construction back in June of 2020 on 279 units of family and senior rental housing, as well as 175 for sale townhomes and a public park. The development of the property requires a series of complex retaining walls because of the steep topography on the site and the marine clay soils. So this site is very similar to Trinity Court, it's just a lot bigger. Our architect on the residences at North Hill is Mosley Architects, which is the same architect on the team for Trinity Court. And we anticipate construction completion at the end of 2022. Next up on your screen is Highland Crossing Apartments, which was a partnership with Spartanburg Housing Authority in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This project is also similar to Trinity Court in that there were 40 units of existing public housing on the site, which required demolition to make way for the new construction of 72 units of affordable family housing. And you can see what the old units look like there at the bottom of your screen. This property serves families earning at or below 60% of the area median income. And now you're looking at the Summit Apartments, which is located in Hopewell, Virginia. This also is a partnership with a housing authority. This is Hopewell Redevelopment and Housing Authority. And again, at the top of your screen, you can see what the old units look like. This project, again, very similar to Trinity Court. There were 40 existing public housing units on this site. Those 40 units were demolished and 52 new units were constructed in their place. This project had added complexity because residents were actually living on the property at the time and had to be temporarily relocated so that the demolition and new construction could actually take place. Property was built in a townhouse style with upstairs and downstairs units, and the property serves families at or below 50% of the area median income. Finally, I wanted to show you this particular property. In January of this year, we completed construction on the rehab of J. Van Story Branch Apartments in Baltimore. This is 20 stories and 350 units. Van Story was a partnership with Community Housing Partners and the Housing Authority of Baltimore City. Now, I'm not showing you this project because it is similar in any way to Trinity Court, because it is not, but I am showing you this property because it speaks to the level of complexity Community Housing Partners is accustomed to handling in our redevelopment activities. Population here is elderly and non-elderly disabled, and 230 of the 350 units remained occupied during construction and rehab. Now, this was a $75 million total development cost rehab. We started the job with 150 units infested with bed bugs, which we ultimately eliminated, and we continue to monitor and manage on a daily basis. We had to cut 20 slabs to install a fourth elevator and manage the impacts of a worldwide pandemic, all with an occupied building of seniors and all while finishing on time and on budget. We're really proud of the impact this project has had on the residents who live at Van Story. The rehabilitation has dramatically improved quality of life inside the building while also transforming the building's presence in the neighborhood. Mosley Architects was also the architect on this project. We've had quite a bit of partnership interest, specifically from healthcare providers for this project, who recognize the role of stable housing as a social determinant of health. Back to what Kim was talking about earlier. To more effectively work with our healthcare partners in addressing the high health needs of the Van Story population, the redevelopment included a 1,000 square foot health suite, which was on the ground floor of the building. Union Memorial MedStar Health manages the health suite and has brought on a full-time health director to work directly with CHP's resident services coordinators and our residents. So this is a really great project, really complex, but great. So with that, I will turn it over to Simone for poll question number 2.
Thank you, Samantha. Okay, so next we'd like to know from you, what does existing affordable housing in Chapel Hill, does existing affordable housing in Chapel Hill meet your family's needs? Yes, no, somewhat. You can go ahead and click which answer best fits you and then click submit. Hold on, something just happened. I apologize. Okay, go ahead. Somebody keeps closing the poll. Stop that, please. Okay, so based on the responses that we did get, it's a split between, a solid split down the middle between yes and no. So let me go ahead and share that for you. All right, and with that, we will turn it back over to Samantha to discuss more about the Trinity property.
Great. Thank you again. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the concept for the redevelopment of Trinity Court. Community Housing Partners' dedication to the creation and preservation of affordable housing has led us here to Chapel Hill. This is what we do, and over the next few months, we're going to work with you to reimagine Trinity Court. We know there are constraints on this site that really limit how much building design flexibility we have. Two of the biggest constraints are the very steep slopes on the property and the stream bed running directly through the middle of the property, if anybody's been down there and seen that. We know that we will have to utilize the footprint of the old buildings for the new buildings, but there's so much more to this development than where we put the buildings. So we want to hear your ideas. We want your ideas about the design of the buildings. We want your ideas about the design of the site and how we can create useful common areas and recreational spaces for families to enjoy. These features will help to build the social fabric of Trinity Court and improve quality of life for residents. We want your ideas about sustainability and resilience features that can be incorporated into the final development. These features will also improve quality of life, reduce utility costs, and provide for added safety and security in the wake of a natural disaster. We want your ideas about resident needs and services and how this property can be a good neighbor and be an asset to the neighborhood. These features will help connect Trinity Court to the community, both physically and through services. The development team's goal is to help fulfill the town's and Trinity Court stakeholders' vision for the site. Sustainability and resilience are such an important piece of the work we do to improve quality of life for residents and reduce our overall environmental impact, but sustainability and resilience may be a new concept for some people. So I wanted to let Joshua talk a little bit more about what those opportunities look like at Trinity Court.
Thank you, Samantha. So when we talk about sustainability, we're really talking about comfortable and healthy homes with low utility bills. And so those are good concepts that we can appreciate. When we talk about resilience, it's about being prepared. And so there are a couple parts of it. There's a social resilience, and that's when you have a strong community, good relationships with your neighbors and the surrounding community, then you have support during good times when you have community events, and if there's a power outage or a storm that comes through, you have resources to support you. We look at the kind of the local resources in the community, and Chapel Hill is great because there's a lot of resources to take advantage of, and so we want to make sure that the design of this community ties into those local resources. And then things like emergency preparedness plans, if an emergency does happen, that there are resources on the site and in the community for that. The buildings themselves can also provide resilience, and so protection if there's a power outage, to have backup power and protection during storms, renewable energy for actually creating energy. And both these pieces, the sustainability of having a comfortable, healthy place to live and the resilience of being prepared as a community, tie into our question of what will make your life better. And so that's the question that we want you all to answer over the next couple months of this process. Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, thank you, Joshua. With that, I think we're going to poll question number 3.
Okay, so the next question that we'd like for you to answer for us is, what services would you like to see more of with affordable housing developments? And with this one, you can click all that apply. You don't have to just choose one response. And so, oops, you should be able to see the poll now. Give you another about 15 seconds. Only half of you have responded so far. Okay. So I'm gonna end it and share the results now. That's interesting. So 3 of the 4 options, they all received about 80% of the responses. So your top 3 choices are health and wellness activities, financial stability programs, and community building activities. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to Emily to share with you the process timeline.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Emily Holt, and I am the Affordable Housing Development Officer with the Town of Chapel Hill. So I work with Faith closely on this project. And I'm going to walk you through the timeline that we're contemplating for the project and point out that we're really talking about 3 different timelines, 3 approval processes that we're going through at the same time, which have really dictated so far when we can do what, and that will continue to be how, what controls the project's timing as we go forward. So those 3 processes are the development review process with the Town of Chapel Hill, the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency's approval process, which will be a key funder of the project with their low-income housing tax credit program. And then finally, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is the federal agency that has overseen this community as a public housing neighborhood since its existence. So starting with the town, we have a very lengthy, thorough review process in the Town of Chapel Hill. We plan to kickstart it with the submission of a concept plan later or at the end of September. And that is really just the very early stages of indicating what we think might go at this site and to get very early feedback from council and the public and resident advisory boards on that plan. There is no vote on that. It is just a concept that we get feedback for before we move forward with putting together a final site plan that will go through a more thorough review by town staff and finally a vote by council. So, if we get started in September, our hope is that by next fall, we would have approval of the project. So we're talking over a year for that. Then during that same time, we will submit an application, a low-income housing tax credit application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. That application, we're anticipating submitting in by October of 2022. And a key piece of that application is having approval from the town for the project. So we need that to be submitted by January of 2023. And then the third piece of the puzzle is the federal approvals. And so we are required to submit a financing plan to HUD by the end of this calendar year, so December of 2021. And we anticipate getting full approval by HUD on the redevelopment of Trinity Court by the end of 2022. So, these 3 approvals are dictating where we go and when, and that is why our estimated construction start date is summer of 2023. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. So as we wrap up the presentation for today, I wanted to make sure that you are informed on all the ways you can continue to stay involved in Trinity Court as we move through the planning and design phases and into construction. And I know it feels like it's a long time, and it is a long time to get through this timeline and get to approval and get to construction. But it is definitely the nature of the work that we do. But in order to create opportunities for us to hear from you, we've designed several formats for your voice to be heard, including interactive meetings like this one. They'll be virtual until it's safe to have in-person meetings again. We'll be doing online surveys. We will have paper comment forms, which will be made available to those without access to technology. We are hosting a project website, which will include regular updates, and I'll give you that address at the end of this presentation. We'll be using the Town of Chapel Hill social media accounts, including Facebook and Instagram, to communicate information about upcoming opportunities for participation. Informational videos will also be posted on the Town of Chapel Hill's YouTube account and embedded in the project website. We will also communicate the results of the public input from sessions like this and from the surveys and online features to participants through the various forms of media. We will look for every opportunity to provide translation to those with limited English proficiency so that language is not a barrier to participation. Our goal is to be transparent and to maintain open lines of communication with you. So next steps, up on your screen, you can see all of the opportunities for public engagement now through December 1. At Community Housing Partners, our belief is that our investment in public and private partnerships will create communities of choice, which promote vitality in neighborhoods and contribute to a better environment for future generations. Projects like Trinity Court allow us to put our mission, values, and goals into action. And here is the project website address. And now we can open it up. I don't know if we've received questions in the chat yet, but we can start answering some questions.
Samantha, I have one question. It is, will washers and dryers or dishwashers be an option? That would help life a lot.
What there probably will be, and Tom can back me up, is that we will have washer and dryer hookups in the units. That's what we usually plan for new construction, so that either you'd be able to rent the washer dryers from us or you could bring your own. And there definitely will be dishwashers, yes.
That's correct, Samantha.
Okay, I have another question. How will the housing be owned or made affordable? Is it community land trusts, grants, low or no interest loans, down payment assistance, etc.?
This is rental housing, so this is not for sale housing. These will be apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. And the financing programs that we use primarily is the low income housing tax credit. And that program allows us to raise equity in order to build the property. And because of that equity coming in, we're able to put those units into the market at lower rents. And actually, we're required to pursuant to the program. It's a federal program.
Another question we have is, how much park space is possible on the property?
Oh, that's a good question. Common area, yes, Tom. You're on mute though.
That runs down to the creek there. There's a lot of open space and there's a lot of green space that'll be associated with this development.
Tom, can you maybe go back a little bit? Because I think you were muted for some of that.
Oh, sorry about that. My apologies. The answer is there's a lot of green space associated with this development. Due to the slopes on the site and the creek bed that runs through the middle of it, a lot of the area is sort of undevelopable, so it will be green space. And the fact that it backs onto the easement around the trail that runs on the creek behind us, we're really excited about the ability to sort of tie the natural environment on the site into into Greater Chapel Hill.
Thank you, Tom and Samantha. Another question is, what will be the upkeep plan?
Upkeep plan, do
Yep.
they, property management?
Yeah, so it says a lot of the apartments in that area have trash scattered all over the place. What is the plan to keep the apartment grounds clean and taken care of?
Well, Community Housing Partners will be the property manager, and I can let Penny speak to how well we manage our apartment communities.
Sure. So we have both routine and preventive maintenance plans that cover not only our grounds and our landscape, but the buildings and maintaining them going forward so that all the systems work well for a very long time. So not only just our grounds as part of our routine and preventive maintenance, but all of the building systems as well.
Thanks, Penny.
I have another question. Will there be a space for dog running?
For dog running. This is the kind of thing that we can talk about during our planning sessions. So the next meeting that we're going to have will be a design meeting, and we will get that kind of input from stakeholders and from folks that think that they want to live at, potential residents for the new Trinity Court. And if dog run is something that is popular with, a good majority of the folks, then it could be something that we incorporate. I don't know how much flat land we have. Blake or Tom can speak to that, but I guess dogs don't need total flat land.
What utilities will be included?
Right now, probably the only thing that would be included would be trash. That is what we are performing now. So residents would be responsible for their water and electric and sewer.
Okay, another question is, what are plans for our mobility challenged?
So the property will have a minimum 10% of the units will be 504 accessible, fully handicapped units. And 2% of the total units will also be designed for sight and hearing impaired people. So if that's something that you need, there will be availability for that. And then we are required by the programs that we develop under that all of our common spaces, which include mailboxes, dumpsters, the community room, everything like that has got to be on an accessible route. So if you have some sort of impairment that affects your mobility, you would be able to access all of those common areas. If it's a playground, if it's a sitting area or a barbecue area, all of that's going to have to be on an accessible route. So it will be a very accessible site.
And we have a question regarding the breakdown of, let's answer this one first. What would be the ratio of parking to residents?
Tom, you got that off the top of your head? Or even Emily might be able to speak to that. There would be a requirement from the town of what our parking ratio needed to be.
We have found that the tax credit ratio is actually less stringent or is lower than the towns. So I think we'd be defaulting to the tax credit, which Samantha or Tom, last I remember, is 1.75 spaces per household. Is that correct?
I believe exactly. The QAP says 1.75 units are
Yeah.
parking spaces per unit, and we'll be in that general vicinity.
So almost 2 per household.
Okay, so what is the breakdown of units for the various AMI? 30 to 80 is a big spread.
It is, and we haven't totally settled on that yet. So as soon as we get approval on that, we will certainly share that.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Um, I think that's it for the chat box.
Okay. Well,
So Simone, can you share one more time how if they have questions after this, they can send them?
Absolutely. So Deirdre just added to the chat box that should have appeared on everyone's screen, that if you can go to the project website, which is listed here, communityhousingpartners.org/Trinity Court. There is an online survey. It was also emailed and listed on the postcard that you received for this meeting this evening. Feel free to take that survey as well as to sign up for process updates. If you add your either email or home address to that survey, then you will be entered to receive any future engagement opportunities for any meetings, any additional surveys that are coming down the line throughout this process. And of course, if you already received a postcard, you're already on that list.
One question came through on the chat. Will there be central heating or air?
yes. Both, yes. Absolutely. Okay, well, we certainly appreciate everyone coming out to join us tonight. I think this is going to be a fun process, and I hope that we'll get to see you again at the next meeting where we'll really dig into some design aspects of the project, and that you will check out the website and the surveys and give us your feedback, because we really do want it. And tell your friends, get them to give us some feedback too, and to attend the next meeting. Faith, did you have
Thanks,
anything
Samantha.
else? Yeah.
No, you nailed it. I was gonna say, tell your friends, because they'll hear it from you more so from any media or information that we put out there. So tell your friends we're doing this, and we can't wait to hear their feedback.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.